Part 18. Complicated Love. Lisa, who was still loyal to Ginny, immediately stood up after hearing the doorbell ring. "Miss Lisa, is Ginny there?" Rose asked, slightly surprised after seeing that the one who opened the door was Lisa, not her best friend. "She's sleeping. Come in," Lisa ordered with a faint smile. The two of them went straight to Ginny's room. Rose, who was already in the room, looked at her best friend who was sleeping there. "She's not in a good condition," said Lisa, surprising Rose. "Yes, Miss Lisa, maybe because of innate." "Innate? What default?" Lisa said confusedly. "Oh my gosh, I almost missed it," Rose, who just realized. That's what I mean. Maybe Ginny is still sad because her mother lives," Rose answered, hiding his nervousness. "Yes, I think so too," Lisa said, making Rose breathe a sigh of relief. "Rose, you're her best friend. Please persuade her to go check her health. I'm afraid something will happen. Lately her health has been declining, while she seems to ignore it," continued Lisa. "It seems he is very worried about Ginny's condition. I can't believe he doesn't have feelings for her." Ginny, Rose inner looking at Lisa's face from the side. "Better Miss Lisa alone brought Ginny to the doctor," Rose answered. She hoped Lisa knew the truth. "I've tried and even forced it, but she balked at being taken to the doctor," replied Lisa sighed. "It's useless. Ginny really wants to separate from Lisa, even to the point of refusing to see a doctor." "Ginny, why are you so stupid like this? I feel like I want to tell you everything," Rose thug. "Okay, Miss Lisa, I'll try to persuade her after Ginny wakes up," said Rose. Lisa's cell phone rang. She went out of the room to receive an incoming call from her cell phone. Not long after she came back into the room, approached Rose, who was still standing there. "Miss Rose, can you stay here with Ginny? I have a little business," asked Lisa. "Of course, though I will stay here with her," Rose replied with a smile. "Okay, thanks, I'll be back later," Lisa said, then left from there. When she felt that Lisa had gone out of sight, Rose lay down beside her best friend who was still sleeping. She kept looking at Ginny with a mind full of questions. "Ginny, how come every time you get into trouble, luck has never been on your side?" Rose thought sadly while stroking Ginny's hair. "Since I first met you, this is the first time I've seen you fall in love with someone. But why did you just let her go? Isn't it wrong for you to be selfish? What's more, now that you're pregnant, can't you reduce your stubbornness a little bit in terms of love?" "I will find out why you gave up your love," continued Rose. Suddenly, Ginny's eyes blinked. She woke up and was surprised to see Rose beside her and, of course, still looking at her. "Rose," Ginny softly while rubbing her eyes, which are still blurry. "Have you been here long?" Ginny asked and got a nod of her head from her best friend. Ginny shifted her gaze around the room as if she was looking for someone there. Rose, who saw it, just smiled at her stupid friend. "You seem to be missing your husband, Jen," Rose said with a nosy smile. "No, Rose, I'm just looking for it," rejected Ginny. "Even I had forgotten about it," continued Ginny lie. "My stupid Jenny, you are not very good at lying, dear. So don't try to lie to me," Rose said, chuckling. "I totally forgot about it," Rose annoyed Ginny and turned her face away. "Yes, it's up to you what you want to talk about. Now, I'd better take you to see the doctor now," invite Rose. I don't want to, I'm fine. Reject Jenny. Jenny, I know you refused to see the doctor because you didn't want Lisa to know that you were pregnant, right? Asked Rose and got Jenny's head nod. Therefore, let me take you, and you also need to check the state of your womb to find out the condition of your child, who is still in there, coaxed Rose. Okay, I'll take a shower first, then we'll go together, replied Ginny, then left. Rose and Ginny are seen already in the hospital to check Ginny's womb. They are now sitting opposite the obstetrician. Even Ginny has been checked by the doctor. Mrs. Ginny's pregnancy has entered 6 weeks and the condition of the fetus is very healthy, the doctor said, smiling. Ginny was very happy to hear that. She stroked her stomach, which was still flat. She didn't think that Lisa's words were true, that she was also able to give her a child. Ginny instantly remembered the first time Lisa did that to her. Even though Lisa only uses tools, she can't deny that Lisa can satisfy her. I'm sorry, dear Mummy, who had to hide you from your daddy. Mummy promised to tell your daddy when the time came, Ginny thought as she realized when Rose nudged her. Oh yes, Doc. Why, during pregnancy, I feel so tired and my head also feels heavy to the point where I can't do anything, asked Jenny. Everyone's pregnancy is different, madam. Some have no complaints at all. Some have complaints that it is difficult for them to eat and do physical activities. I will give you vitamins, but I hope Mrs. Ginny is not too stressed or overthinking something, especially until you are tired. It is not good for your fetus. Because the age is quite young, the condition of the fetus is very wide. So if you feel tired, have a heavy head or feel nauseous, it's better to just rest. Don't be too forced, explained the doctor. After finishing, Ginny and Rose said goodbye and then left the room. When they were about to leave the hospital, they accidentally crossed paths with Summy. Ginny, Rose, what are you doing here? Asked Summy. I, just checking my health, because lately I feel my health is declining, nervous Jenny. What are you doing here yourself? Asked Rose sarcastically. I want a medical checkup. I live first. Bye, Summy said quickly, avoiding the two friends to make them look at her in surprise. Not wanting to bother, Rose immediately grabbed Ginny's hand and took her home to rest. Arriving at home, Rose naively told Ginny to rest, and she prepared everything that her best friend needed. While Ginny was silent, looking at her friend's good treatment of her, she was very grateful to have a friend like Rose, and she unconsciously shed tears. Rose came out of Ginny's room, let her best friend rest, but he accidentally saw Jisoo, who was standing in front of the door about to knock. Hi, Miss Rose, you are here too, greets Jisoo, smiling. What are you doing here? Asked Rose with a look of dislike. I want to see Ginny's condition, answered Jesus. She just had a break, so I hope you don't bother her just yet, replied Rose. It didn't take long for Lisa to arrive. She briefly looked at Jisoo and then walked past him without saying hello. Rose, is Ginny in the room? Asked Lisa, turning to Rose. Yeah, she's resting because she just came from the doctor, answered Rose. Finally, he wants to go to the doctor too. Thank you very much because you want to persuade her, Lisa said sincerely and even smiled. Lisa went straight to the room. Ginny, who was sitting leaning on the bed with her eyes closed, immediately opened her eyes because she heard her bedroom door open. "Lisa," she said, smiling so happily. "Are you feeling better?" Lisa asked, making Ginny nod her head. "You came here to get my file, right?" "I have prepared the file," Jenny said with a forced smile. Yes. I came here to take your files," Lisa said as if her voice sounded muffled. Ginny grabbed the file that had been neatly arranged on her bedside table, then she handed it to Lisa. Lisa shakily took the file. "I'm going to take care of your health first," Lisa said softly, while rubbing Ginny's head. Ginny just smiled while nodding slowly, looking at her husband's face, and Lisa, who was about to step, suddenly didn't. "Ginny," called Lisa softly. "Yes, Lisa," Jenny answered quickly. "Can I hug you one last time?" asked Lisa. Ginny was silent. Her heart was so broken when she heard the request from her husband. Her eyes looked teary. Lisa really weakened her heart, who had tried to be as strong as possible to accept every. "Of course," Jenny said slowly, then stood up. Ginny approached Lisa, and Lisa, who did not hesitate to immediately pull her wife's body in her arms so tightly she closed her eyes. She had never felt pain like this before. Likewise with Ginny, she closed her eyes, holding herself from crying, but in fact she couldn't. What's more, Lisa was sinking her face into the nape of her neck. "Lisa, why are you making me fragile again?" Ginny thought. She was crying. Her heart seemed to be sliced by a sharp object that she couldn't avoid. After a few minutes, Lisa let go of her embrace, her eyes looking a little wet. His eyes stared into his wife's eyeballs, then wiped the tears that were still streaming down there. "Even though we are separated later, I will still be beside you because I have promised to Mummy and to myself," Lisa whispered, and her hand was still holding his wife's cheek. Ginny took a deep breath and then nodded her head. The pain she felt was second to none. As evidenced by her tears, she couldn't stop. "I go first," Lisa said goodbye and left his wife and might soon become an ex-wife. Lisa, who just came out of Ginny's room, immediately wiped a single tear from her eye. This was the first time she had cried after her daddy lived. With a heavy heart, he continued his steps and stopped again because she saw Rose and Jisoo in the living room. "I'll take Jenny," she said slowly. "Miss Lisa, why only a moment?" Rose asked, surprised, glancing at the file in Lisa's hand. "I just took Ginny's file. Today, I will take care of our divorce. I'm sorry. Please take care of Ginny," Lisa said, walking away. Rose, who was already standing when Lisa approached her, immediately threw herself onto the sofa, as if it was hard for her to believe what she had just heard from her best friend's husband's mouth. And Jisoo, he seemed to feel the pain that was felt by his sister because it was clear from his sister's eyes. Those eyes where his daddy has gone. He started to get restless and thought of some. Lisa, who had arrived at the court and was about to meet her lawyer to provide all the divorce papers, suddenly stopped when she heard someone shouting her name. "Miss Lisa, wait," Rose shouted breathlessly as she approached the husband of his best friend by running fast enough. "Rose, why did you follow me here?" asked Lisa, surprised. "I want to talk to you for a moment," asked Rose. "Sorry, I don't have much time," replied Lisa. "Just a minute, Lisa. I beg you?" asked Rose with clasped hands in front of Lisa. "Speak," said Lisa. "Miss Lisa, do you really want to separate from Ginny? Can't you rethink your decision?" asked Rose seriously. "This is your friend's wish. If you only talk about this matter, better go. Don't get too involved in our business," Lisa snapped, then wanted to continue her steps. "Miss Lisa, wait, do you not love Ginny at all? Don't you love her?" Rose asked again, slightly raising his voice. Instantly, Lisa burst into tears again, but she quickly wiped them, then took a deep breath, and without looking back she said, "Miss Rose, please go away. I still have a lot of things to do," she said, then resumed his steps. "Miss Lisa, why can't you see Jenny? She loves you so much. It's the first time she's fallen in love, and it's only for you," Rose shouted with tears already flowing. Lisa, who heard that, immediately stopped without turning her head. She just froze, repeating Rose's words in his own head. "And just so you know, she's pregnant now." "She said she was pregnant with your children," continued Rose while wiping her tears. Lisa's eyes were perfectly rounded. She was so surprised to hear the statement she heard from the mouth of her wife's best friend. As if struck by lightning, Lisa dropped all the files she was holding. Then she turned around and walked back to Rose. "Rose, are you kidding me?" Lisa asked, tightly gripping both of Rose's arms and looking at her face. "I never joked about things like this. Ginny is pregnant and has loved you for a long time," Rose said with a serious look. "She was forced to want to separate from you because she felt guilty towards Sami. She thinks she has snatched you to make Sami almost end his life," continued Rose. "Oh Lord," Lisa said while closing her eyes and massaging her forehead. "Oh, sorry." Elsewhere, Ginny was still lying on the bed. She still looks sad. Sometimes his tears drip, and even occasionally she pats his chest, which hurts. Ginny turned around and was immediately surprised when she saw Lisa was already in the room, even looking at her. "Lisa," Ginny said, and quickly wiped her tears, then walked over to Lisa. "Lisa, why did you come back again? Is the file still missing?" Jenny asked, showing her smile as if she was fine. Lisa was just silent and didn't even budge. Just looking at Ginny's face makes the woman who is still his wife feel confused by her husband's strange attitude. "Lisa, are you okay?" asked Ginny, who was getting worried. "You stupid," said Lisa, who immediately hugged his wife's body very tightly. "I already know everything. You love me so much, and I love you so much too. Even I was never ready to part from you," continued Lisa, closing her eyes. "Lisa, let go. What are you saying? You've misunderstood. I don't love you at all. Please let go," Ginny pleaded with tears that melted quite profusely. "I already know everything from your best friend. Why are you still denying it? How can you be this stupid? I left Sami not because of your fault. I left her because of his own fault. And that was long before I knew you. Long before I married you," continued Lisa, holding her wife's arms and her face facing each other. "Lisa. No, Jenny. Don't say anything. I almost lost you and also my son. Why are you this stupid? Why are you so stupid?" Press Lisa and finally cry. This is her weakest point. "Lisa, I'm sorry. Don't cry. It's all my fault, sorry," Jenny said with trembling lips and pulled Lisa's head to the nape of her neck. Ginny's heart seemed to be torn apart seeing her husband crying because of his mistake. This hurt more than before. she was crying, while calming her husband, who felt shaken. After a few minutes, Lisa, who started to calm down, slowly let go of her hug, and Ginny quickly wiped her tears, then looked at her husband's face, which looked very messy. Sorry, Ginny softly looked at her husband's eyeballs and with both his thumb wipes the rest of her husband's tears that still wet her smooth face. Lisa couldn't speak anymore. Her voice seemed to linger in her throat. She slowly approached his wife's face and pulled the nape of his wife's neck, then put his lips there. Meanwhile, Ginny just closed her eyes, feeling her husband's soft crush, and not long, there was a knock on her bedroom door. They suddenly woke up and looked at each other and smiled together. "I'm going to the bathroom," Lisa said, smiling gently while stroking his wife's lips, which looked wet, then walked towards the bathroom. Ginny just stared at her husband's back, then smiled, imagining what had just happened to her. And suddenly, she came back to her senses when the door to her room was knocked again from outside.